Good afternoon. It is a beautiful day here in North Carolina, and today I'm going to talk about focus points and which ones you should use for different situations. So come along and enjoy this adventure. In this week's video, I am going to talk about focal points on the camera. I think this is one thing where a lot of people get some confusion on it. Now, most cameras will allow you to adjust what focal point you use. Now, on this camera, this is a Canon R6. I have a single point of focus. I have a cross where I have 6 focal points, 3 down, 3 across. I have a square where you have 3 across and 3 down, that's 9. And then I can basically have a series of either all the focal points or the focal points on the left or right or something like that. Now, how I use these focal points, and I gotta tell you, since I got the R6, I have adjusted this a lot more than I did with my other Canon cameras, because I think it's a lot easier with this, and this camera is a lot, I shouldn't say smarter, it is more intuitive to what I want. So when when I'm photographing birds, about 75% of the time, I use a single focal point, and that's great when photographing birds, like in cover like this, in the bushes, or if you're photographing a woodpecker on the side of a tree. The camera will focus on that single focal point. You put that on your target, you take the picture is taken. Now, I use the cross, where I have 3 down and 3 across. I use that for landscapes. I will use that for photographing like heron on the side of a pond. If I have a bird standing on a branch where it's isolated, I will use that cross. Now, when you're using multiple focal points, you are letting the camera decide which one to focus on. So you put that cross right on your subject, and it will select whichever one it wants to use. I usually take multiple pictures, 8, 10 pictures or something like that, so that the camera will get hopefully what I want in focus. But these cameras here are so good, they really work really well. The next one I'm going to talk about is the square. So that's 3 across, 3 down. And I use this mostly for photographing large animals like buffaloes, elk, animals where I can put that square and it won't be focusing off the animal. So I don't want to be in a situation where it's focusing behind the animal. So if I can't get the entire animal in the camera or in that little square, I will adjust to the single focal point. But I use that square if I have an animal that's relatively close and I can get it on the animal, I can put it on its body or its head, and I'll do that. Again, the camera will pick one of those focus points and adjust it. Doesn't mean that the other ones aren't focusing on it, but that's what you need to remember. It's also good for landscapes. If you have that square, you want to select a building that's in your landscape or a particular part of the scenery, you can do that. Another thing you have to understand too is that you can adjust on the back of your camera. On this one, I would just touch it, and it would move the focal point to where I touch it. And that's kind of important. So if you're focusing on landscapes and you want something that's closer to you and not in the center, you can just hit the screen and it will change where the focal point is. The last one I use is all the focal points. And I only use this for flying birds. Now, the AI that's inside these cameras here is incredible. It will identify something that's moving through your picture and will focus on it. It's not perfect, but I would say 80 to 90% of the time, it will select the bird to focus on. At that point, it's on you to keep the camera pointed at the bird, and you have to use the right shutter speed. Obviously, when you're photographing flying birds, you want to use a much faster shutter speed. But I have to say, since I started using all the focal points on my camera, I get a lot more photos of flying birds, and I'm much, much happier with them. I used to get very frustrating before I bought this camera. I would say 90 to 95% of my photos were taken with a single focal point. And the problem is that when you're photographing flying birds, that doesn't work at all. And even a lot of other situations with landscapes, it's really just limits you a lot. So having the ability to change which focal points or how many you use can be a liberating experience. As with everything else, there is a learning curve, and unfortunately with photography, a lot of times the learning curve is you smashing into something and then you slowly going up. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel because that really helps us in YouTube growth. Become a Patreon supporter. Your support allows us to keep doing this. My name is Leahy. I want to thank you for watching.